All right, we're live.
All right, but welcome to the RDU Buzz, where we talk about all things happening around Raleigh with development, news, restaurants, recreation, all kinds of things. We are happy to have you guys here. Tonight we have some really interesting topics that we're going to dig into of things happening around Raleigh and Durham. So we are excited for you guys to stay tuned to learn about them. As you are watching, or if you're watching this replayed later, we love to hear where you're watching from. So feel free to put that down in the comments. We love seeing how far away people are tuning in from and how close some people are tuning in from. And then if you have any questions about things going on around Raleigh, even if they don't pertain to what we're talking about at this very moment, throw them in there too, and we will answer any of your questions while we're here today.
Yeah, that sounds good. So we will kick it off, and I hope y'all have had a good Monday so far. Cindy cannot stand these headphones, but I get so nervous. Like, what if our sounds, and it is working, so I'll take them back off.
Yeah.
I'll take them back. But anyway,
tell me, looks too serious.
Yeah,
like it looks like he's like ready to like launch a rocket ship into space. I know.
So we're gonna start with a cool news story coming from Axios. So owners of a former Raleigh Kmart want a 20-story building to replace it. So if you know where this Kmart is, it is a decrepit looking building. It has been vacant, I think, since 2018 was when it closed. Wow. It was purchased by a Raleigh-based developer called CityPlat, which is a commercial real estate company in the area. And we actually know somebody who works at CityPlat. Yeah. So he's a really good guy. But anyway, so they bought the property and they're looking to turn it into multifamily housing with some options of like office space and retail space as well. But they are requesting that the city, so right now it's allowed, is zoned for up to 5 stories, but they want to do a 20-story building, which would allow them to do, you can probably hear our kids banging on the wall. They do have an adult with them. Oh, I bet you can hear it through the microphone. But they allowing it to go up to 20 stories would allow them to do 3,500 residential units, which is an insane amount.
That's a lot of units. At least I think it sounds crazy. Like it is. So. And as far as where this is located, if it's inside of Raleigh and it's kind of close in that like area near like the fairgrounds and or it's on Western Boulevard. So if you've passed by there, but yeah, it's definitely
if you've ever driven
needs a facelift.
Yeah, if you've ever driven on 440, kind of on that newer section that they just finished up. It is right off there and it just looks horrible. I mean, every time I drive past, I'm like, man, that building looks terrible. But it's because it is a Kmart that's been there since 2018, abandoned. So
I do find it interesting though that they're putting 3,500 units because I think like the need for apartments has like gone down so much over the last couple of years. So I find it really interesting that they're trying to put 3,500. That's not a small apartment complex, So I'm curious kind of what the overall vision is.
The need for apartments has gone down, or if it's just there's so many of them that the prices went down. I don't know. I mean, we're not commercial agents, but
I mean, I think a lot of them are vacant. So,
but they've already got actual tenants already committed to this new. They're obviously trying to go through the process of rezoning it to make it a larger building, but they do have some tenants already set in place. Looks like a gym, a basketball training facility, and a Turkish cafe. So, but anyway,
better than a vacant old Kmart.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the last time I stepped foot in a Kmart. It's definitely.
It's been a long time.
It's been a while.
Yeah,
it's been a while.
Yeah, we got. KB Dot says, hi, big fan. Thanks so much for tuning in.
Thank you for tuning in. Where are you watching from? Let us know. I'd love to hear.
Yeah, but moving on to the next one, but I do think that'll be a big thing if they can redo that one. Do you want to take this one?
Yeah. So there are a news article came out saying the 8 biggest companies that are headquartered here in the Triangle, and some of these are very interesting to me. It maybe like wasn't exactly in my mind. I'm like, I think Duke is going to be like number 1.
Yeah, well, so the article, there's a catch to this article. They did they only did publicly traded companies. They didn't do private companies.
Okay, that's fair.
So Duke's not on there. Oh my goodness, what's the video game? Epic Games is not on there.
Yeah.
And
which is interesting
SAS
that they're
not on there. So all like those are 3, like if you talk about the biggest companies in our area, like you can't talk about it without Duke. you can't really talk about it without SAS, and you probably can't talk about it without Epic Games, but because they're not publicly traded, they didn't include them.
Yeah.
But the one that I don't want to go through all these, but the one that stood out to me, I had no clue that First Citizens Bank was headquartered in our area.
Yeah,
I had no idea. I thought it was a national. Maybe it is a national
me.
bank,
I mean,
but
I feel like my family used them a lot growing up, so I guess that makes sense.
Yeah,
They might have been like a local option, but
it was founded in Johnston County, which is where Clayton is, in 1889.
Wow.
Yeah,
they were really like some of the first citizens.
Yeah. Gosh, it's unbelievable. It's just Advanced Auto Parts. I didn't know Advanced Auto Parts was headquartered in our region, which I think is really cool.
That's pretty cool. I actually did not know
Yeah.
about Advanced Auto Parts. And number one was IQVIA, which is the
It's
it
like
used to be called
pharmaceutical,
Quintiles,
yeah.
but you pass it when you're on 40.
Yeah.
They do pharmaceuticals.
And sorry, I keep mispronouncing. KVD said top 3 neighborhoods for families coming from a big city. So I'll probably neighborhoods are tough because that's like niching it down really far. But I would say if you're coming from a like a big city, I guess it depends. Do you want to like keep that big city life? Not that our area really like affords big city life, but
if you want to keep
I'd probably say
walkability to downtown.
Yeah, I'd probably say
proximity.
like Cary, North Raleigh.
I would say some of the historic, if you want to keep
and maybe like a
feeling,
historic Durham, like a
I was going to say historic like the downtown Raleigh neighborhoods that
Yeah,
have more,
that's
like
true.
Historic Oakwood
That's
and
true.
stuff like that would be a really good
or
option.
historic Durham, like downtown Durham, like
Trinity Park,
Trinity Park.
really nice if you want to keep that bigger city kind of feel.
Yeah,
But if you're trying to get away from that and you want to be
like
spread
in
out,
suburban heaven.
suburban heaven, then head over
like-
to Cary. You're gonna love it, Cary.
Cary, Apex, Holly Springs, Wake Forest, those
Yeah.
areas. But it'll be tough to replicate. Like if you wanted big city life, it'd be tough to replicate kind of big city life here.
Yeah.
But there are some areas that can kind of help with that. So
And if you want to lean more into those questions, happy to hop on like an individual call with you too.
for sure.
So,
All right. So this one's an interesting one. So $100 million project that could land a target in Clayton. So we just talked about Clayton, or we just talked about Johnston County, which is where Clayton is. One thing that Clayton has struggled with, and we talk a lot about that on here, is the commercial side of things. They just haven't really kept up with the growth when it comes to the commercial development. But there's a massive project coming to Johnston County, and they're looking to add 13 more acres to that. So essentially, what this project will be is a multi-use development that's going to include quite a few things, and it possibly could include a Target. It could also include a Chick-fil-A,
which is so funny because
it's very early in the process.
Years,
yeah,
anytime someone asks about Clayton, I'm like, the only problems is that it's missing 2 things: a Chick-fil-A and a Target. So if they came together, it would make total sense that they would come in the same shopping center, I think, and at the same time. But this sounds so silly to say, but I feel like having those 2 things would like really put Clayton even more on the map, because truly, there are people that won't move to an area if there's not a Target. Like,
I know very few people who are like that.
Okay, well, it's because you're married to the one who shops for you at Target. But when you're used to shopping at a Target, like it's kind of hard. Walmart just does not hit the same like spots for me anyway, and I think for most people. So you're having to drive outside of Clayton to go to Target now, and I could not live without Chick-fil-A. So.
Well, yeah, that is true about you. But anyway, I do think any kind of, and I know, development in general, sometimes like a controversial topic, but I do think Clayton has struggled over the years to really keep up. It's got a ton of housing, but it doesn't have a lot on the commercial side. Folks got to drive, like Cindy said, you got to drive a good distance to get to some of your commercial shopping. So
yeah, for sure. It's just kind of annoying because they have so many neighborhoods that have been built like in the last 10 years in Clayton. And there's a few commercial type things that have been added, of course. Like it's not like there's absolutely nothing, but for the amount of people and population that has increased there, to not have a store like a Target is crazy to me.
It is.
And it's just like, it has 2 Smithfield chicken and barbecues, but the Chick-fil-A, like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, I don't know. It doesn't make sense. So it's got to get a Chick-fil-A.
Yeah. Well, and to be clear, like this is very preliminary. Like we don't know if it's going to get a Target or a Chick-fil-A. It's just assumed.
These are potential.
So some of the early documents from the town of Clayton itself showed those tenants as being a part of this development. But the reason this is news is not because of this development. This development's been in the news for a while, but it's because they're looking to add even more acreage to the additional 12 acres to it.
Yeah. So we're gonna have way more than just Target and Chick-fil-A. Obviously,
maybe.
there's gonna be a lot going on in this development, which is really exciting. And it's kind of speaking into Target. Costco has stalled their plans on adding a location in Wake Forest.
Yeah, which is such a bummer.
It is. They announced this a while ago.
And it wasn't, so it was kind of equivalent, like stalling the plans was kind of equivalent to what Apple did.
Yeah, Apple did with the
and what Epic Games did with the redevelopment of the old Cary Mall. And so they just never pushed forward with the plans. And so now the town has basically said, okay, well, it's past its limit, it's withdrawn. So it wasn't like Costco didn't say we're not coming. They just never did anything to show that they were coming. So essentially their application was withdrawn. But it would be, I mean, it's a great fit for Wake Forest.
Yeah, I mean, they could definitely use one. There is a Sam's Club there already, so I guess some people could argue that you don't need both. But I do find that you're either a Sam's Club fan or you're a Costco fan.
Yeah.
And I guess, if you only had one choice, you just obviously have to go with that one. But I think Costco has a cult following that I don't feel like Sam's Club has. So I know that there's enough population growth there to definitely have both a Costco and a Sam's Club.
And just kind of show where it is. So you've got like your Targets up here. Yeah, your Lowe's right here. And there's this huge amount of land right here that's right off Capitol Boulevard, which is where whatever this development is going to be, where it is, and where that potential Costco would go. But like when you think about what Wake Forest has and doesn't have, really the only thing it doesn't have is Costco.
Yeah.
Or like a Trader Joe's, Whole Foods, like stuff like that. But like the only like large box store that it doesn't have is really going to be a Costco.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a bummer that they paused it.
It is a bummer for the.
But it doesn't. I don't
population.
think it necessarily means they're not building it. But
yeah,
they already have 4. I was actually talking to somebody today, and they live in like a small town. We're actually talking about Costco, and I was like, "There's only 4 in our area," and they're like, "Only 4." Yeah. I just forget. I mean, our area is so spread out; it doesn't feel like it's a lot.
Yeah,
but it is.
His area is probably not as spread out though. Yeah. I mean, they could all be like an hour. These 4 could be an hour apart from one another.
Yeah.
So
So another thing. So speaking of something that is moving forward to the next phase, at least not to completion at this point, but is the Whitewater Center. So there's a Whitewater Center. They're calling it. This article. Is calling it an entertainment and outdoor entertainment center along I-40. So basically they're just saying like in the Morrisville area, Whitewater Center. And this is right by the airport. And so the developer plans for a 136 acre Whitewater Center that includes like basically kind of what you see in like the Charlotte area, but on a much smaller scale with the US. That's like the official U.S. Whitewater Center, right? In Charlotte. I think it is.
Yeah. I don't know if there's other locations.
But the reason this is big news is because they just got through the public hearing process of this development. So it's moving into the next phase, which kind of sounds like it's almost like, drawing up the developments or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's not like
they've officially named,
nothing like is done yet.
Yeah. They officially named the developer, and they have until next summer to come up with, or this coming summer to come up with like more concrete plans and like their term sheet. So kind of like just more of like where would things go, like kind of like environmental impact, things of that nature. So this will be really interesting to see what comes of it. The renderings that they've shown so far are really neat. Like just like this adventure hub with zip lines and obviously like the Whitewater stuff. But I think it would be a really fun addition there. I think it's met with some opposition though, because I think some people would prefer this to just stay a natural area. But the airport is wanting to use this to help fund their big infrastructure project that they have going on. So I could see it happening. Yeah.
When you said environmental impact, I just thought when there's a scene from Parks and Rec,
there's always a
where
scene
they had to do the environmental impact on that little square.
The little square.
Yeah. Didn't they do that?
Yeah.
Anyway, my mind just went there. That's why I was laughing when you said environmental impact. So you mentioned the developer, and the developer is actually big news because it's the exact same developer that is doing the sports and entertainment district at the Lenovo Center. It's the same one.
That's really cool. Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah. So that's
Yeah,
pretty cool.
Pacific Elm, I think.
Yeah,
Is the name of
Pacific
it.
Elm. All right, we're gonna move into some housing market predictions. So Redfin's 2026 predictions. They say welcome to the great housing reset. So I looked at quite a few predictions today, trying to determine which one am I going to go with. Am I going to go with Zillow or Redfin's? I actually thought Redfin's were really good. They were very specific and had a lot of like graphs and charts and whatnot. So their prediction number one is that mortgage rates will dip to the low 6 range, helping improve affordability. So you can actually see, well, I don't know if I'll pull, there you go. You can see it like right above our heads. But it's crazy. You look back in 2020 and we were down in the 3% range for average rates.
Crazy.
Ballooned up to almost 7% in 2023. And actually, in these years, like it was not uncommon. Like in 2023, I mean, people were getting mid to upper 7s into the 8s.
Yeah.
Like this is saying 6.8%, but there were a lot of people not getting 6.8%
Right.
during
Because you
the
have to keep
during
in mind
those
this is an
times.
average of people,
Yeah.
with very different types of loan products and
Yep.
very different credit scores and all of that. So,
Yeah.
you have people way above that. for
Exactly.
sure.
So they're expecting this year to be the first year back into the low 6s. If you look at Fannie Mae, now I don't know if Fannie Mae may have revised it since the last time I looked at it, but the projection with Fannie Mae was in the upper 5s. So Zillow, Redfin, they're kind of going against like the Fannie Mae projections of where mortgage rates will be. I still think if there is a 6 in front of it, you just won't see the gates of the housing market open the way you will with the 5s.
Yeah.
So I don't
Agreed.
know. I could be wrong. Prediction number 2, home buying affordability will improve as wages grow faster than home prices. So that's actually, I mean, that's a big deal. That's a really big deal.
Yeah. Redfin expects the median home sale price to rise 1% year over year in 2026.
Yep.
So prices will tick up just marginally because the mortgage rates are still pretty high, along with the weaker economy that they think will curb demand.
Yeah. So it looks like they expect wages to grow like 4-ish%, and then prices to grow about 1%. So that's kind of what we're seeing. Like when you look at Zillow's projections, Zillow's national projections are just over 1% nationally. In our region, their projections for our region are kind of the same. Like Raleigh's are around 1%, but Durham, they actually have a little bit higher than Raleigh.
They do.
I think that's for multiple reasons, but but that is something that they expect to. Prediction number 3, home sales will rise 3%. So home sales have been record low. Like we haven't seen.
They've been since the 1940s, right?
I know. I think it was the 90s. I think it was the 90s.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Though the lowest people are moving since the 40s.
Yeah. So the lowest. But I mean, if you look at like, if you look at the population growth over the last several decades, I mean, home sales in the 90s versus home sales in today, like home sales today should be substantially higher than in the 90s, but they're not. And so, I mean, if you look at this chart here, and I'll kind of zoom up so y'all can see it, like, when they say marginally better, like they legitimately mean we're hardly better than where we've been in 2023, 2024, 2025. But I mean, where we've been is like literally the housing market's been rock bottom over the last several years. So, apartments, we don't really do apartments. I don't know too much about, I just don't know a lot about apartments, but their prediction is rents will rise as demand for apartments rises and supply falls. And then prediction 5, high housing costs will reshape households with more roommates and fewer babies. So that's interesting. I could see that. Yeah.
I mean, I feel like that's what you see in big cities, right? Where things are always more expensive. It takes longer and longer for adults to like be able to live on their own. I feel like, like when you graduate from college, you get a job in DC or something and you have like 8 roommates and you're all paying a ridiculous amount to just make it work. And so if it costs that much, it's kind of hard to like, nobody really wants to start a family with a bunch of roommates. So,
it's kind of awkward.
It's kind of weird. So you kind of have to not live in those cities. And so it's just hard. And now it's becoming less affordable, even in places that aren't big developed cities.
Yeah.
So
The prediction number 6, affordability crisis will unite policymakers across party lines. I do think there will have to be something done at the DC level, the federal level. And I think, it could be stuff like the capital gains rules. Like the capital gains rules, I think came out in the 90s, where you can sell your house for $500,000, like basically, tax free for $500,000. If you think about today, that's not that much. Like that's a lot of money. I'm not saying $500,000 is not a lot of money, but when you look at but
I mean, an average home
the
price
boomer
here
generation,
is, yeah.
and you look at their average home, and you're sitting in a home that's too big for what you need, but if you sell it, half your
you're
house,
gonna sell it for $700,000, and now you're gonna be taxed on the full amount of $700,000 because you don't have a mortgage anymore.
And so I think redoing like the
amounts at least,
it needs to be $1 million.
Equal to what they were.
It needs to be $1 million.
Yeah,
like the capital gains needs to be $1 million.
Adjusted. Yeah, it just needs to be adjusted for inflation.
So there are things. All that to say, there are things that could be done on a lot of housing's local, but there are things that could be done on the federal level.
Yeah, for sure.
To really help. I don't know if I want to go through all these. These are a lot of predictions, but those are, if you want to go look at it yourself, you can go look at it, because I think in general those are like Redfin's predictions, at least the ones that we went over, they're really specific, which I like. I felt like Zillow's were like, it's not theirs weren't specific, but like these were like, oh, these are actually like good predictions. All right, the next article. So there is this like circular building in Raleigh, and it just received landmark status, historic landmark status before its renovation. So this building was going to be demolished, and it was a big deal.
Yeah, it was going to be demolished. People were not happy about it. It was like such a
it's a big deal.
It is. Well, it was a Holiday Inn, and it closed. I want to say back in the 2010s. I can't remember which year exactly. But they, it closed. The developer purchased it with plans to demolish it and like create apartments and like a smaller hotel. Yeah. But this building was not like part of the plans at all. And there was just a big outcry, and the city actually gave it historic status, which is cool. This was actually at one point, obviously it's not anymore. This was actually the tallest building in Raleigh when it was constructed.
Yeah. So, and I think it was for a while.
Yeah. Which is
this
really
article
cool.
actually mentions that. And I can't remember, because I was reading through it earlier today, prepping for tonight. And I can't remember. It was like, I think
8 years.
It was 8 years.
Built.
Okay, so you know
so
it.
It was built in 1969.
Yeah, that's really cool.
And then it was the tallest for about 8 years. So it's cool to think about, like, just it's definitely like a quintessential weird 1969 type of architecture. Like I don't know if you should call that mid-century modern, but it's definitely like got that funky thing. So I'm excited that it got to stay, and it's going to become a boutique hotel called Hotel Indigo. So we'll see I'm excited to like check it out.
You know a lot about this.
Yeah.
It's impressive.
I do.
Because you didn't read this article. I did.
Not. Well, I've read it before.
I didn't know like half of what you just said. But all that's in the article. There's actually one of these. I mean, this is not related to Raleigh whatsoever, but there's the exact same hotel, and it's a Holiday Inn in Charleston. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah,
it's right across.
You're right.
It's right across the Ashley River.
Yeah.
It's like on near the Citadel.
That's cool.
Yeah,
you're right.
No, but it's
I knew
Holiday Inn.
Familiar.
It's a Holiday Inn, and it's the circle shape. So
That's
there must have been
cool.
something that Holiday Inn was doing back in like the 60s or 70s.
This was
where they were building them everywhere, or at least in Raleigh and Charleston.
Had to compete with Red Roof Inn. They had their red roofs, and they were like, we're gonna be circles.
Yeah. All right, we'll end tonight looking at just mortgage rates real quick. Low sixes, and according to Redfin, this is where we're going to be pretty much all of next year. So we'll see. Obviously, the Fed cut rates. Again, that was the third time this year. I don't think there was a cut, because there was a cut last year. Yeah, it was just last year. So yeah, it was three cuts this year. So I think sometimes people expect when the Fed cuts rates that mortgage rates are immediately going to go down, and that's just not typically how it works. A lot of times mortgage rates, like where they are is already baking in what they think the Fed is going to do. So typically when the Fed does cut rates, there's typically very little change in that. So, but if you have like a really pessimistic, like speech or whatever after the cuts, like sometimes that can affect rates where, people are kind of like reading into the words that the Fed chairman's saying. But anyway, so that's why, rates have really not been impacted that much by the Fed
Yeah,
cuts.
yeah.
I mean,
They've stayed
you're
pretty
talking,
consistent.
yeah, you're talking 3 cuts, and we were in the 6.2, 6.3s the entirety of that.
Yeah.
And so it just doesn't impact it too much because the everybody was kind of baking in those 3 cuts in the process.
Yeah.
So,
well, at least you can move knowing that you're not going to kick yourself for the rate being super low like 10 days after you move.
Yeah,
like
and
at least
and
it's pretty
is
stable.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I think that and I think we kind of saw it this year to a degree, but I think stability is like, obviously lower rates would be great, but man, what people needed was just stability. Like, not thinking, okay, if I don't lock it in today, I'm not going to go from a 7.2 to a 7.9.
Yeah.
Like that was horrible.
Yeah.
Just the inconsistency and the lack of, like there was, it was all over the place. And so
Yeah.
I think even if you have a rate that's not as ideal as you used to have, at least hopefully we'll have some type of consistency next year where we're just floating around the same number all year.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anyway, well, that is all that we have for tonight. So we were supposed to do this last week, and our kids, naturally, every single one of them was sick.
Yeah.
So they were sick for like 2 weeks straight.
Oh my gosh.
With some, I don't even know what it
not
was, some
fun.
kind of flu type.
Yeah.
I don't know. But anyway, so it's good to be back tonight. But I hope y'all have a great rest of your week, and a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And we'll be back on, I don't even know what
in January.
What is it? January 5th, I think.
We'll see you
January
real
5th.
soon next year.
All right, y'all. Y'all have a good rest of the year.